Hello and welcome to the Bulletin vlog. I'm Helen McGrath, Head of Public Affairs, and I'm joined by our Bulletin editor, Dennis Hall.
Hello, everyone.
Now, it's been a pretty busy run up to the summer, Dennis. What were your big hitters from the Bulletin?
Well, inevitably, I'm drawn back to the COVID-19 inquiry. And Michael Gove gave evidence to the COVID inquiry the other week. In the Bulletin, there's the witness statement he made, a transcript of the hearing, and a video link to the hearing as well. But what you'll not forget is that he asserts that Brexit actually helped government prepare for the pandemic. To be precise, Michael Gove told the inquiry that preparing for Brexit meant the government was match fit to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. He said that civil servants honed and refined their crisis skills as they worked up ways that the UK could leave the EU. At a previous session, however, senior civil servant Catherine Hammond said Brexit had plainly distracted officials, and Nicola Sturgeon agreed based upon her experience in Scotland. And similarly, Welsh officials confirmed that view. Perhaps we should move on. Helen, you covered an item the other week on data breaches concerning Croydon. Well, the Information Commissioner has been looking back at the reprimands issued in the past 3 months to various bodies, but including local authorities, and he outlines in a statement 3 brief lessons for organisations across the public sector to improve their data protection practices. And these include better training, recognition of the need to respond to requests within the statutory timeframe, and best practice when developing new apps and online services. Helen.
Yes, well, no doubt AI is likely to play a huge part in both FOI and SARS requests in the future, Dennis. And let's see how the draft EU Act plays out against the UK's white paper. Now, existing news, the House of Lords have narrowly passed an amendment to the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill to enable remote meeting provision for local authorities. The motion passed by 167 votes in favour to 154 votes against, so it was quite narrow. And it will now go back to the Commons, whom we know are not entirely enthusiastic, to say the least, to allow remote provision for reasons which I simply cannot fathom. On the subject of Parliament, it is, of course, now in recess unless it's called back, which means those 3 new MPs appointed in the much-covered by-elections won't be able to be sworn in Westminster until it reconvenes on the 4th of September. A couple of things that are worth watching out for when Parliament does return. There's an interesting no confidence motion, which is the first time such a motion is actually on an order paper, and that's against the chair of the Defence Selects Committee, Tobias Elwood. The Commons also considers the Lords' amendments in the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Bill, whilst Westminster Hall will be debating financial education in schools and non-disclosure agreements. And in LLG news, we take a break from our training programme throughout August, but we continue to hold national lead meetings, and indeed, why not join us on Tuesday for our free to members webinar on how to break the cycle of burnout in your legal career with Donna Smith, who's a professional development consultant from Odonata Growth and Transformation Coaching. And now, Dennis, for a sneaky peek at what's coming up in bulletin number 29.
Well, here's an interesting one, Helen. Legal Services Board Chief Matthew Hill has been speaking about diversity in the legal profession. Speaking at the Westminster Legal Policy Forum event on education and training, he said this: the legal profession is 5 years behind the curve on diversity and inclusion, and has only in recent times appreciated just how unequal access is. The profession had come late to the table, he said, on the issue of diversity, and will have to make a tremendous effort now for the results to be felt over the next 2 or 3 decades. Ethics are in the news also, as the government has published its response to 3 reports on strengthening ethics and integrity in central government. In response, the Committee on Standards Chair Lord Evans said, overall progress has been made, but it should not be the end of the story. We would encourage the government to keep the remainder of our recommendations under review. The rules that govern public office require constant attention. There'll be more on both these items in the next bulletin, Helen.
Indeed, and for more detailed coverage of the bulletin entries, don't forget to listen to the Grapevine podcast. So it's goodbye from me.
And from me too.